Amambra back.
Certainly. Yes.
Who supporters are there?
Yes.
Then Pabium no be.
Captain, thank you. Pacho mamin fa nchia ema yetie say I think the electorates of our country a mistake be. And the mistake cannot be entirely apportioned to the electorate because the NDC's communication machinery failed to communicate the 2016 manifesto well. And we did a similar mistake in 2020. If you understand the processes of development for any developing country, the processes of development, any developing country, Asia, now we were somewhere in our processes of development. And the ouster of President Mahama was a major disruption in that process. There are 4 stages. There were 4 stages in the development process for any developing country. The required,
Where in I am Mahama, they are no baby from one side.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, there is some unfinished business for President Mahama. We don't know who else is coming would bring on board. And we can now focus on what Mahama was doing and why we think he should be allowed to continue. There are the 4 stages. One is to strengthen your revenue, generation capacity. No, let me. I'll come back. I'll come to that specifically. Yes, and you strengthening your capital capacity, and that includes your physical infrastructural development and then your strategic investments. And you paying attention to industry, and then finally re-engineering your socio-economic development of your people. And President Mahama was doing all of these almost at the same time. If you look at his investments in our gas, sector, if you look at his investments in our health sector, all of the sectors, President Mahama was doing something with our physical infrastructural development. He was investing heavily in our strategic, investments. He was ensuring that the government continues to have some readily available sources of revenue, broadening our revenue base. Now, to take that individual out of government on the promises of someone else coming in and saying, I will do A, B, C, and D was the major, then the most, maybe offensive mistake we made. And these are the consequences of it. But Captain, more specifically, we are 30 years in our democratic, experimentation. And ordinarily, now around this time, the Ghanaian people should be taking stock of how far we've come.
Okay.
But just as we are attempting to do that, then we find ourselves in the consequences of these, approaches to governance that could best be described as bad governance. And, President Mahama's comeback is to continue that process of giving the Ghanaian people that sort of outlook that enables the economy to actually take off. Because we are still struggling to take off. It took China 30 years. You mentioned China extensively in your comments. And me feel say, President Mahama's comeback is just to complete that process to give the Ghanaian people that takeoff we need. And that is what is critically needed. We cannot, engage in any further experimentation. That completion for the takeoff. Unfortunately, we have had to, come face to face with these economic difficulties. And he will have to come and deal with this and ensure, and
there's nobody in your party who can do that.
You see, it's about individual. If you look at the constitution of our country, chapter 6 specifically, it gives too much room for the president to do what he wants to do.
So there's nobody.
What I'm saying is the individual that is coming in will be some try and error that we cannot, put ourselves through. This is what we have. Currently, we all know that President Mahama has infrastructural development as his leadership signature. Now, that is what we need now. And there are the three major functions of infrastructure in any economy.
You cannot be an advisor to whoever will come from your party.
That is another area as to whether whoever is leading this country will admit or take the advice of, our system is such that when you are elected into a position, you hardly take advice. And it is because... No, the point is this. It is why you must be sure you are electing someone with the requisite capacity, requisite knowledge, the caution of self, you know, and the level of integrity required to be able to make, at most times, the right decisions.
Okay, so that's just Mahama be ready when we.
Precisely the point.
And to know, when we know, be no.
You see, it's just one aspect of the very many things he was doing before he left office.
Thank you.
That
was a beautiful answer anyway. So